Vanakkam from Semmozhi Multimedia Center of the Central Institute of Classical Tamil. Very happy to be presenting the story of the anklet, Silappadhikaram, one of the foremost grand opera literature in classical Tamil language. Classical Tamil language is where we have the Sangam anthologies followed by several such works. With the grammar established well in place, poetic meters becoming popular, we have this very well celebrated poet called Ilangovadigal, who came up with this long opera, one of its kind in Tamil language, a work that people from several parts of the world speaking different languages understood and appreciated, praised it for its flow, content and what it stood for. Story of the anklet, Silappadhikaram. We are starting with the first episode of the storyline. We've discussed some of the introduction part and on the poet, what we know, what we don't know, etc. And now moving into the actual storyline. The entire opera is split into three sections named after the three capital cities of the three ancient dynasties, Cholas, Pandyas and the Cheras. The capital cities namely were Kaveri Poompattinam or Puhar, an ancient port town, a very wealthy mansion-filled broad street, a beautifully planned city, the ownership of which was with the Cholas. The port town there was very busy with ships traveling across the continents, tethering itself there, exchanging, importing, exporting, very busy and activity filled. So that was the capital of the Chola country and that's where the story begins. And so the first section of the opera is titled as Pugar Kandam, or all the story that happened in and around Puhar, the city of Puhar, the port city. The next section, the second section, is all that is centered around the Pandya country and hence named after Madurai, the ancient capital city, the political capital of the Pandya dynasty and today what can be called as one of the cultural capitals of the state of Tamil Nadu. This ancient city of Madurai is where several turning points in the story, more importantly, kind of an anticlimax happens. And so the second section is called as Madurai Kandam. And finally, the closing chapters, the final conclusion and the auspicious ending where the heroine of the opera, Kannagi, is elevated to the level of a goddess to be worshipped. All those sections, the stories there, they are all compiled under various chapters and brought under the section, the third and the last section of the opera, named after the capital city Vanji, and hence it's called Vanji Kandam. So the three sections are the stories around Puhar, the stories around Madurai and the stories around Vanji, the capital city, the ancient capital of the Cheras. So starting from the east coast, cutting across the heartland of Tamil Nadu and entering what is today's Kerala and going all the way up to the west coast. So this is a beautiful storyline that way. Now to the story. The first section, which is all about Poombuhar, and the opening chapter is in fact named after auspiciousness because it covers extensively the grand big fat wedding of the hero and heroine of the story. So the praises, hailing of all that is wealth, all that is nature, all that is in abundance, all of that happens. The opening verses are remarkably interpreted and spoken about too. It starts with praising the moon, the sun, the rain and the city of Poombuhar. That's the best way to begin a work which is this huge and this celebrated. So the author starts by praising the moon. He praises the moon for the for its quality of being very bringing in this the ushering of night and the cool temperature that it maintains, blesses us with, and the beautiful figure that it is hanging around a vast dark background. So he praises the moon first, then he praises the sun god. The Cholas claim their descendancy to the solar rays. They claim their origin from the sun god himself. So they belong to what is called as the Surya Kulam. Now that is a common trait with which we see several ancient Kshatriya communities of India, where they have their origin either from the sun, the solar rays, or sometimes from the moon, the lunar rays, or you also have the Agni Vamsha. So these are the three popular gods and forms from whom the lineage, the kings claim their genealogy to belong to or to have started from. So here the the natural forces of moon and sun are praised in the same order. So, after praising the moon, the poet praises the sun. May the sun be praised, may he be worshipped for all that he is ushering us with. Then the rain, the clouds that bear the rain, the monsoon clouds are praised too. The dark clouds of the monsoon season, they are praised. Water is the fundamental element which proposes life forms, which supports life forms. Without water, the world is nothing. So, the elixir of life that it is has got to be praised, and the primary source for it are the monsoon showers, the clouds that bear the rainwater. So, the poet praises the clouds also, the rain also is being praised. And third, but last but not the least, you have praising of the city of Puhar. That is where the story begins. The city is wealth personified, a very active, bustling port town that it is, filled with a lot of commercial activities, ships from far and wide coming and paying a visit there, import and export happening, and the huge tall mansions with balconies and beautifully ornamental doorways and beautifully decorated windows, and the wealthy merchants having a very active lifestyle. Yeah, so it is defined and described as a very happening city, and that is also the venue for the opening scenes of the story. So, he goes on to praise the city of Puhar also. That is where the hero and the heroine, the protagonists of the story, start their life, have what seems like prophecies to be a wealthy, rich, long, memorable life. But unfortunately, fate hits bad, and then there are a lot of twists that happen. But the first chapter opens with praising the moon, the sun, the rain-bearing clouds, and the city of Puhar. In that city, that is how you set the tone. So, the city, the venue has been described, and in that very active and rich city lives a captain, a sea captain, a wealthy leader from the class of merchants who was known for being trustworthy, who was known for his word, who stood by dharma, and he is identified as Manayakan. Interestingly, in this story, the heroine is introduced first. That is a very beautiful tradition that Ilangovadigal starts, the poet starts. Generally, we move behind stories by defining the hero, setting the tone by understanding the hero of the story, and then later the heroine is introduced. But here, the praising is all to the clan of the heroine first. So, the father of the heroine is introduced as Manayakan, quite literally translated the big, very famous leader of the community, Manayakan, and his trustworthiness, his word, and how he leads a very dharmic life is described. And then he goes on to say, to him and his wife was born this little girl called Kannagi, who can be in fact compared with Mahalakshmi for all the qualities, for the beauty that she was, to her fragile frame. She looked like a creeper, a golden creeper in fact, and people praised her for all her qualities. She was looked upon as this ideal woman even when she was only a 12-year-old girl. I mean, back in those days, weddings at very early stage were very popular. That was in fact the norm. So, heroine here is 12 years of age when her wedding happens. So, even before entering into the wedding phase, Kannagi is described, she is praised. Right there, Ilangovadigal gives us a clue that she is going to be the one who is going to be praised for the chaste qualities that she had. She just adored all the qualities that a woman from back in those days were idealized with. So, she is the one who is praised there. So, the heroine is introduced first as Kannagi, and then the story of the hero comes in. He follows the heroine in fact. So, his father is first introduced. So, singing about the genealogy, telling to what kind of qualities his parents had, which reflected in his qualities, and the community that which he came from, and their role in the society, all that is described. So, here you have that's a general norm. So, Ilangovadigal also follows the same norm, and he introduces the father of the hero, who is identified as Ma Sattuvan. Sattuvan is somebody who, Sattu generally refers to the mercantile community, a registered body probably of merchants, a recognized body which stood for the merchants. I mean, we have confederations of industries and confederation of business personals. So, each discipline has its own confederation of popular people. So, they work for the betterment of the entire community. Likewise, in ancient Tamil country, we had the Tamil society had recognized bodies that were identified as Vaniga Chattu, or the business mercantile establishments, a confederation of such merchants. So he was called as Madhusudhanan, somebody who had the leadership of such a confederation, and he, when you say he leads a confederation, his trustworthiness, his honesty, his qualities, his characters are all understood with that. I mean, back in those days, it was not easy to be a person with a lot of flaws in life, leading an adharmic life. Still, to lead a confederation or to be identified as the representation of the community wasn't possible back then. So they belong to the times when dharma stood before everything. Yeah, so here you have Madhusudhanan, who was probably the leader of the confederation of merchants, and his qualities are described. Then to him was born this young chap called Kovalan, whose manliness can be compared with only the qualities of Subramanya, Muruga or Shanmuka, Kartikeya, the war god. So the warrior god, in fact. So he is all charming, young, youthful, energetic. He can only be compared to the qualities of fire when it comes to the way he presented himself. Not that he was fighting wars, but when it comes to a hero in traditional literature, it is Kartikeya who is idealized. Pretty much like how Mahalakshmi, for all her qualities, are idealized. So you have the heroine compared to Mahalakshmi, and here you have the hero is only compared to the qualities of Subramanya. So Ilangovadigal, who is so much rooted into dharmic traditions, compares him or tells that if you want to understand the qualities of Kovalan or how young and charming he looked, take a look at the imagery of Kartikeya. That's how he is. Because we are so used to these gods and goddesses, we know their attributes, we know their look and feel and how they are presented, we know their qualities. But to understand Kannagi and Kovalan as individuals, we cannot go back in time and check on them, right? So for an easy understanding, we have such comparisons with well-known portraits, and here we have Kartikeya, who is to be taken as a clue when you want to understand what Kovalan was. So the characters have been introduced and the qualities have been established, and we are aware that Kovalan was 16 years of age and Kannagi was 12 when the story begins, or when they got married, because the story begins technically with their wedding. It is always good to have an auspicious beginning. Whenever you tell a story, it's good to have an auspicious beginning. It starts well with a good mood set in. Yeah, and there is this little interest in knowing instead of starting it with a tragedy. So here we have, irrespective of whether it's going to end in a tragedy or not, the opening is full of auspiciousness. So it's the wedding bells that start ringing right in the first chapter. So the big fat wedding that's going to happen between two very, very popular, wealthy, well-established communities, families of merchants, is all what Pumbuhar is talking about. That's the subject for all of the city of Pumbuhar. So the streets were all decorated. The maidens were appointed, they were commissioned to go and accompany the wedding parade. So a huge reception is being conducted. Everything around the air is auspicious. Yeah, it smells so fragrant. It's all the sound of mridangam and drums and all those auspicious instruments are being played. Conches are being blown. So you have, the air is just filled with everything that's positive. The Vedic seers, the Vedic priests have been commissioned. Every family has an affiliation towards a specific family of priests also. Over generations we are associated with them. We request them to be a part of all and every important milestone events in our family. So they are always commissioned to conduct it for us. They perform the rituals for us. In many cases they also stand as witness to marriages, birth, funerals, death, whatnot. So every milestone event you have the priests who are commissioned, and they on behalf of us perform the rituals and rites. So here it is a very, very well established Vedic wedding that Madhusudhanan and Manayakan had commissioned for their son and daughter respectively. So Kannagi and Kovalan, dressed in their best, are being brought in. The wedding pandal, the mandapam where the wedding is going to happen, the venue is also described. It talks about really rich decorations that were happening there. It talks about precious stones being used to be stuck over columns, pillars, and how the canopy was there, fragrant flowers. So everything around the air was so much so auspicious. And Kannagi and Kovalan were brought into the pandal. They were made to sit in front of the holy fire that has been invoked in the pit. So the priest makes the offerings. Verses from the Vedas, Vedic scriptures and Shastras are being chanted. So, all the gods and goddesses who are described in the Dharma Shastras to stand witness to the wedding, they have all been invoked. They are present all over there, and the offerings are made, and finally the wedding happens. To be blessed by the gods, the devatas, the elders, neighbors, friends, family, for all of them to stand witness, the grand wedding of Kannagi and Kovalan were conducted in a very Vedic and dharmic way. So, the whole tradition, the wedding tradition as described by Ilango Vadigal, stands witness to how weddings were celebrated back then in ancient Tamilakam. It was very much deep rooted into our Shastras and how it has been prescribed. So, these celebrations seem to have been a pan-Indian tradition, at least in well established and well evolved communities. So, here you have a very well established merchant community that had spent a fortune on celebrating the wedding of their children. So, here you have a grand wedding that had just completed. And as the day sets in, Kannagi and Kovalan enter their nuptials. So, the bed has been beautifully decorated and it bears the emblem of the tiger. There, Ilango, the poet, gives us a clue about how they also praise the Chola kings, because praising the leaders, the adharmic leader especially, praying for him or her and requesting the gods and goddesses to bless them with good and long life, healthy life. So, that seems to be a common trend, a tradition that we have all followed, because a dharmic king is very rare, and when you have one, you request the gods to shower their blessings in abundance on him or her. So, when such kings are ruling, everything is prosperous, everybody gets what they want, what they are worthy of, and you lead a very happy and a fulfilled life. So, here when the nuptials happen, when they are brought in, the bed bears the emblem of the tiger, which Ilango gives us a clue is the same emblem that had got itself embossed on the Himalayan hills also. The unified Bharata Varsha, India, the ideology of being Indic, traces our thought process of the northern boundary to the Himalayas always. The mighty crown is identified where the top point, the northernmost point of Bharata Varsha is, and so the kings, whichever part they were from, always had a thought to go and get themselves established all the way up north. So, the Cholas have also done it. We have clues from Sangam literature which talks about a Chola king having his expedition win all over up to the Himalayas and have the flag of the Cholas, the tiger embossed flag of the Cholas flying high there. So, this chapter also comes to a close praising the emblem of the Cholas and says, may it live long and be there till time continues. And so, with the auspicious wedding and the nuptials, the first chapter comes to a close. But was it auspicious and always happy and such positive moods filled all through the opera? No. Fate starts playing very soon, and what happened is for the next chapters coming ahead. Thank you.